Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and today we are talking about finding your truest self. Now stay with me because I know some of you are thinking, oh, well that sounds all warm and fuzzy, like a bunch of just, theories that we're going to talk about, but this is actually so important. I have had so many seasons of my life where I felt not like myself. I was either doing something that didn't feel like me, or I was in a situation that felt out of character, or I was putting all of my time and talents and energy into something that I didn't even care about. And I know that you have probably been there too. Now, I'll give you probably the earliest example I can think of with this. Now, this was when I just graduated college. I've talked about this before. It was my very first job out of college. I got hired at the local newspaper to be an advertising coordinator. Now, I have a background in advertising, and I was really excited about getting to have exposure to all these different departments, from creative to copywriting to research and media buying and all of that. Well, turns out I was wrong, because this position was actually, wait for it, data entry. Literally data entry into this software program, maybe from 1987, that crashed every few hours after you have spent hours and hours putting in all these numbers and formulas, and then it would just crash. And you had to start over. Like, y'all, it was the most mind-numbing, miserable job in the entire world for me. For someone that's wired like me, creative and full of ideas and full of energy, and I'm a people person. I spent every day for these few months that I worked there going to this gray cinder block building with gray cinder block walls, with gray carpet and gray ceilings and fluorescent lights and gray cubicles, and I died a little inside every single day. Now here's the thing. It wasn't just that this job made me miserable. It was that I wasn't myself. I wasn't doing something that I was good at, that made me come alive, that gave me energy, that gave me joy, that used my strengths and talents. I wasn't me. Now, y'all, I have had other examples of this. Maybe you've had this in your life as well, especially in my teenage and young adult years when I was kind of trying things out. When you're younger, you're like, I don't know who I am. I'll just go find myself. I'll try some stuff. Well, I got this idea when I was 18 in college to make some extra money. And I was going to go to bartending school. Yeah, I know. I didn't have a lot of good judgment at the time. So I enroll in bartending school because I'm going to learn how to make drinks, and I'm going to go work at a bar, and I'm going to make a lot of money in tips, and it's this great plan for me to make money when I'm in college. Again, disaster. Even bartending school was a disaster. I sat at this really gross, smoky bar with all these other people with dreams of being a bartender. And the teacher even would smoke a cigarette and blow the smoke directly in our face. And he'd say, get used to it if you want to work in a bar. And I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Now, I don't hate bars or drinks or bartenders or anything, but it wasn't me. It wasn't right for me. And as I realized through these different experiences, there have been situations where I've realized this is not me. I don't feel like myself. And then I've had other experiences, thankfully, where I'm like, I feel like the truest version of myself. I feel like work doesn't even feel like work, and my passions are being used, and my talents and my energy is being poured into things that I actually care about. Now, maybe you haven't had such an extreme example like my local newspaper or my bartending school, but maybe you've had something else. Maybe you've had a moment or a season of your life, or maybe even years of your life where you feel like that you've lost yourself. Lost yourself in motherhood. Lost yourself in trying to climb the corporate ladder. Lost yourself in other people's expectations of you. Haven't we all done that? We women are wired so relationally. We love to relate to other people. We value ourselves as mothers and wives and sisters and friends, and we really put so much importance on this. But because we do, we tend to lose ourselves in our roles and our responsibilities. We have a hard time saying no. We're people pleasers. As long as everyone else is happy, that, we'll find a way to be happy too. But in the process, you lose yourself. You lose your truest self of what makes you you, what makes you happy, what makes you come alive, what gives you joy and energy. You're in there. And that's why I'm so excited about this show and this episode today, because we're going to talk about how to find your truest self. It's interesting because I've talked about this before. There's a fascinating book, an article called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. Bronnie Ware was a nurse that actually took care of people on their deathbed in their final days of life. And she noticed a really interesting theme as people are faced with the end of their life. She noticed there was such a theme that there were actually 5 common regrets that they all had. The number one regret, are you ready for it? The number one regret of people on their deathbed was they wished they hadn't worked so much. There's a good lesson and perspective for all of us. But the second regret was really fascinating, especially in light of what we're talking about today. The second regret of people facing the end of their lives was that they wished they had lived a life true to themselves. They wished they hadn't lived according to everyone else's expectations, what their mother and father and mother-in-law and spouse thought they should do, that they had lived a life of what they loved and what was important to them. They wished they lived a life true to themselves. Now, I think this is really important because all of us can gain that perspective, even though thankfully we're not facing the end of our life. We can start to make choices today that avoid that regret, where we find our truest self and we make decisions every single day to live our life being true to who we really are and who God created us to be. I don't want you to be one of those people that has those regrets. The Bible says, I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. God created you for an abundant life, and He created you so unique and so special with special desires and unique talents and strengths. And those are things that I want you to think about as you're thinking about finding your truest self. Now, I know it may seem hard to do this. Well, how do I even find out who I really am? Women tell me all the time, I have lived so long for other people that I don't even know what I want. I don't even know who I am. Well, I want to help you. I'm going to give you 5 questions to ask yourself. Now, these questions are not the end-all, be-all, but they're just directional questions that are going to help you start thinking about who you are and who your truest self is. Think of them kind of like road signs pointing you in the right direction to discover who you are. I'm going to give you 5. There's more than this, and you can think of maybe some more on your own, but here are 5 questions to get you started to find your truest self. Number 1, what do you want? I know that sounds simple, but when you stop and think about it, it's actually kind of hard to answer sometimes, especially if you've lived your entire life for other people. What do you want? Not what does your spouse want, not what do your kids need, not what do all your friends think you should do. What do you want? Without considering anyone else for just a second, what do you want? What do you want for your life? What do you want for yourself? What do you want right now, today? What do you want? So often we think of our own desires as selfish. Oh, I just need to push all my selfish desires aside. The Bible does not say that your desires are all selfish. Your heart's desires are not bad things. They are God things. I believe God gave you those desires for a reason. And if you look at the Bible and you look at examples where people came to Jesus asking Him for something, every single time He would ask them, what do you want? The blind man came to Jesus and said, have mercy on me. And He would turn to the blind man and ask him, what do you want me to do for you? Don't you think Jesus knew the man is blind? He knew, but He wanted to draw out those desires. What do you want? What do you want, daughter? What do you want, child? What do you want me to do for you? He's asking you to own those desires and then trust Him with them. But first, you need to answer the question for yourself. What do you want? When you answer this question, it's a good direction to pointing you to your truest self. Now, the second question is similar, but a little bit different. Where do you want to be? Ask yourself where you want to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day. I've got to get laundry, got to get the dry cleaning, got to do the dishes, got to get the mail, got to take the kids to soccer, got to get the science fair project. We've got all these tasks and we just drown in the day-to-day. But if you don't look up for just a second and ask yourself where you want to be in 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, you will still be drowning in the day-to-day in 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. So ask yourself, where do you want to be? Where are you going? Where do you want to be in the future? And you can determine what that length of time is. Maybe you want to pick 10 years, great. Maybe it's just 1 year, fine. Just look ahead. Where are you going? If you don't know where you're going, you will never get there. But when you start thinking about where you're going, it gives you a sense of direction about not only who you are today, but who you want to become, who you are in the future, your best, truest version of yourself. Now, a third question to ask yourself that gives you insight into the best version of yourself, your truest self, is one that I've asked you many times, but it's so important. What gives you energy? What breathes life into you? What gives you energy instead of sucking you dry of your energy? Have you ever noticed how completely drained you are when you do something that you're not good at, that you don't enjoy, that you don't care about? Your energy level is a great indicator of how much this is in line with your truest self. Does it give you energy? Y'all know me. I can be on stage speaking all day, every day, for 3 days straight. And when I finish on that third day, I am just ready to charge hell with a water pistol. I'm on fire. And of course I'm tired, but it's that good kind of tired. The kind of tired where you can't wait to wake up and do it all again. But ask me to do a spreadsheet. Ask me to enter some data. I can do about 5 minutes. 5 minutes and I need a nap. Nothing drains my energy like data or details or organization or math or technicalities or any of those things. But you might be different. What gives you energy? What actually pours energy into you? When you think about those things, it's great insight into your truest self. Those things that fill you up, those things that give you joy. All right, the fourth question. I love this question, and it's kind of weird, but I love it. Maybe I love it because it's weird. What makes you like yourself? What makes you like yourself the most? You know, I have done things for other people. I have done things to make people happy, and I have hated myself in the process. I have even made purchases that I didn't want with money I didn't have and hated myself in the process because I didn't want to hurt the salesman's feelings. Y'all, that's so embarrassing to say, but it's true. I bet you've done the same thing. I bet you have made commitments and said yes to things when you wanted to say no. I bet you have done things to make someone else happy and you've hated yourself in the process. So instead, let's ask ourselves a different question. What makes you like yourself? When are you the most proud? When are you the most confident? When do you feel the best about you? Is it when you've had a great workout or have a clean house or you've just painted a new painting or just had coffee with a friend or just finished a big project or just bought a new outfit? What is that for you? What are those things that make you happy and confident and proud? What are the things that make you like yourself? I'd be willing to bet that God created us to like ourselves. He didn't create us to live a life of misery. And if you want to offer love and joy to other people, you have to first love yourself. You have to experience joy yourself. You can't offer something you don't have. And you can't lead someone where you are not. So if you want to lead other people, you have to start with you. So what makes you happy? What makes you proud of yourself? When you answer that question, even though it might be a little weird, it probably will give you great insight into your truest self, the truest self that you're proud of. And lastly, the fifth question you can ask yourself is what makes you come alive? What makes you come alive? You know, before your husband and your kids and your job and your business, you had a set of strengths and gifts and talents that you offered the world around you. And if we're not careful, we stop offering who we are, and instead, we just become what we think they need us to be. A task completed, a warm meal on the table, a ride to soccer, everything done around the house. You know, but instead, I want you to ask yourself a different question. Ask yourself, what makes you come alive? Instead of all day, every day, asking yourself, what does everyone need from me? Ask yourself, what makes me come alive? Because I'd be willing to bet that what your husband needs from you more than a warm meal on the table, and what your kids need from you more than a ride to soccer, and what your job and your business needs from you more than just tasks completed, is a woman in their lives that has come alive. I believe that every single one of you were created on purpose for a purpose, and nothing fires me up than seeing women set free to pursue their God-given gifts and talents. And finding your truest self is the best way to do that. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you need help identifying your strengths, well, you can download my strengths worksheet. I'm going to give you 5 questions to answer to help you identify your unique strengths.